Good morning, everyone. A PPT. So before going to the topic, just you see the picture. By seeing this picture, we can identify what the person is doing here. See, he is trying to eat something. So at this time, we can see just before the ear, there is a redness. And over this area, there is a sweating. So what is this condition called gustatory sweating? Means by at the time of eating, there is a sweating over the on the face just in front of the ear. So what is this condition? If you want to know, we have to go further details. So what is that? Now you see, before going through that, these are the things you must know. So learner should be able to know the following. And first of all, this parotid region. Then in this region, what is there? So what is parotid gland? Then surface markings or location, where we can see the parotid gland. Then what are the different parts of the parotid gland? Then relations. So why should we know here relations? The important structures which are present inside the gland and emerging from the gland. So those are very important clinically, you have to know. Then structures, we can divide these structures. So some of these structures are present within the gland. Then some structures emerging from the boundaries of the gland. Then blood supply of the gland, lymphatic drainage, nerve supply, then finally applied aspects. So these are the different objectives now we are going to know. Coming to the parotid region. See, parotid region. Parotid means just a bit aside, means adjacent to the oral cavity. Then see this parotid region, if you see the boundaries, what are the boundaries? If you articulate the skull, with the mandible, here you can see the parotid region. Anteriorly, it is bounded by, this is the posterior free border of the ramus of the mandible. So the parotid region is bounded in front by this posterior free border of the ramus of the mandible. And this mandible, on the external surface, it receives the insertion of masseter. On the internal aspect, it receives the insertion of the medial pterygoid muscle. So the parotid region is bounded in front by this posterior border of the ramus of mandible. Then either side, the masseter and medial pterygoid muscle. Then posteriorly, the parotid region is limited by the mastoid process. Here you see, this is the mastoid process. This is mastoid bone, and from the mastoid bone, the conical projection is known as mastoid process. So this mastoid process gives attachment to the sternocleidomastoid muscle like this. So here in the picture you can identify this is mastoid process, and on the external surface you can see the insertion of the muscle. What is this? Sternomastoid muscle. So posteriorly, what is the boundary? Mastoid process and sternocleidomastoid. Then above, it is limited. What is the boundary for this? Here you can see a important meatus is there. So what is this called? External acoustic meatus. And in front of this, we can see the joint formation between the mandible and the mandibular fossa. Now, I want to take out this mandible. Now you see, this is the mandibular fossa. So, above the parotid region extends, means or limited by means of the temporomandibular joint and external acoustic meatus. Then, what is the boundary on the medial aspect? See, this is the styloid process. Here you can see the part of the styloid process is damaged, but this is a styloid process. It's an extension of the tympanic plate. So this is a styloid process. And the important structures which are attached here to the styloid process. The three muscles, styloglossus, stylopharyngeus, stylohyoid. And the two ligaments are attached here to the tip of the styloid process, which are stylohyoid and stylomandibular ligament. So medially, the parotid region is limited by the styloid process and the attached structures. So the styloid process along with these all three muscles and two ligaments collectively known as styloid apparatus. So these are the boundaries for the parotid region. So what is this parotid region actually? Then this parotid region is a facial lined space where it presents a bed for the parotid gland. So exactly within this space we can see the parotid gland. Then this parotid region, what I told, this is a facial lined space. So what is that fascia lining here? This is a fascia derived from the neck. The deep cervical fascia, otherwise called the deep fascia of the neck, which extends upwards below and in front of the ear. So this is a facial lined space where it gives an area for the parotid gland. So that's why the structure's boundaries and this facial lined space collectively known as parotid bed. Now coming to the, what is the parotid gland? See here, you can identify the three glands we can identify just in front of ear and below the ear. There is a larger gland compared with these two. So these are the three paired, because on either side we can see these three glands. So we have three paired larger salivary glands. Actually, we have salivary glands, major as well as minor. So what are these minor salivary glands? They are present in the mucosa of the lips. I see minor salivary glands, those are present in the mucosa of lips, cheeks, palate, means soft palate, and floor of the mouth, and oropharynx. So these are the smaller amount they are providing the saliva. But the major portion of the saliva is derived from the major salivary glands. These are the three paired salivary glands. So all these glands are exocrine glands. So out of these three major salivary glands, the submandibular, sublingual opens into the oral cavity proper, whereas parotid glands opens into the vestibule. Now coming to the surface markings. Here, identify the picture. The 4 points I have given. So the first point, head of the mandible. Here you can see this is the head of the mandible. This head of the mandible is articulates with the mandibular fossa, where it forms a temporomandibular joint. So this head, if you place your finger, tip of the index finger, just you place your finger, all of you, in front of the ear, tragus. Then open your mouth. What happened? There is a movement of the bone. So what is that exactly is the head of the mandible. So this is a one important point for surface marking. Then what are the different parts of this gland and how can we locate this gland just in front of the ear? See, coming to the anterior border of the gland. The anterior border, see, this is the anterior border. The anterior border is represented by a line joining. So the first point we had to draw, locate just in front of the tragus. So that indicates the upper border of the head of the mandible. Then the second point you have to see the middle of the masseter muscle. Then the third point, it is 2 centimeters below and behind the angle of the mandible. So what is the angle of the mandible? Here you see, this is ramus of the mandible. So ramus of the mandible presents posterior border and this is inferior border. So where the posterior border continues with the inferior border, it forms an angle. So this is known as angle of the mandible. So just to 2 centimeters below and behind this angle of mandible, we should put a third point. So if you join these 3 points, that indicates the anterior border of the parotid gland. Then it has an upper border. The upper border is a concave border and this line is means curving upwards. So this curved border, if you draw, just crossing the lobule of the ear. So the first point you have to again see the head of the mandible. The second point is mastoid process. Already you have seen, see this is the mastoid process, tip of the mastoid process. So if you join this head of the mandible to the tip of the mastoid process by a curving line. So this curving line should be a concave upwards. So that curved line represents the upper border of the parotid gland. Now coming to the posterior border of the parotid gland. What is the surface marking? See, the first point is mastoid process and the second point is 2 centimeters below and behind the angle of the mandible. So if you draw a line between these two, that represents the posterior border of the parotid gland. So these are the different surface markings of the parotid gland. Now, what is the surface marking for the parotid duct? Again, the first point you have to draw, locate at the just in front of the tragus of the ear. The second point, identify the second point exactly the junction between the ala of the nose and the red margin of the upper lip. So this is a center in between these two structures. So if you draw a line between these 2 points, the middle 1/3 of this line indicates exactly the location of the parotid duct. So this knowledge is very important in case of clinical aspect. Now coming to the presenting parts. So what are the various parts of the parotid gland? As I told initially, the parotid region is a facial line space and that fascia is derived from the neck cervical region. Means what is that fascia? Deep fascia. So the deep fascia extends upwards and here is enclosing. So within this enclosure, we can see this parotid gland. So what indicates the parotid region is not a part of the face. By its facial lining structure, what you can understand, this is an extension of the neck. So parotid region is a part of the neck itself, but it's not a part of the face, right? Now coming to the, what are the different parts of the parotid gland? Capsule. See here, parotid is not a structure, it is a gland. So, how can you define the gland? Any structure defined as a gland, it should be covered, means enclosed by a connective tissue capsule. And from where it derives the structure, means the own connective tissue, means in the gland, the connective tissue, it is surrounding the entire structure, parotid gland. So it forms a continuous capsule which is known as true capsule. Whereas, what is the other capsule? False capsule. So, what is this false capsule? Initially, I told parotid region means facial line space. So, that is a deep cervical fascia. So, the parotid gland is covered by true capsule, which is derived from its own connective tissue. Then, false capsule, it is derived from the deep fascia of the cervical region. Means it is nothing but deep cervical fascia. Here, the deep cervical fascia, on reaching the gland, what happened? It is splitted into 2 layers. So within the 2 layers, we can see the gland like this. So it has a superficial layer and deep layer. So the superficial layer is comparatively thick and it extends, it covers the entire gland. Then extends here in the picture you see, after covering this gland, it extends onto the muscle. So what is this muscle here? Masseter muscle. So this superficial layer is thickened to form parotidomasseteric fascia. And finally, it gets merges with this epimysium of the masseter, and above it is attached to the lower border of the zygomatic arch. That is about the superficial lamella or superficial layer of the deep cervical fascia, otherwise called false capsule. Then what happened? The deeper lamella. So deeper lamella is thin and is attached to the tympanic plate. The tympanic plate of the temporal bone and gets attached to the styloid process. So from this styloid process to the angle of the mandible, from this styloid process to the angle of the mandible, the part of this deep lamella is thickened in the form of like this. From this styloid process to the angle of the mandible, the part of this deep lamella is thickened in the form of the stylomandibular ligament. So this stylomandibular ligament separates this parotid gland from that of submandibular gland. Then coming to the base. See, the shape of the parotid gland is a wedge shaped. So it has a wide base above and a narrow lower end, nothing but apex. So it has an apex at the lower part and the base at the upper part. And this is anterior border, this is posterior border. Then what are the surfaces of the parotid gland? The parotid gland presents three surfaces. So three surfaces means how many borders must be there? Three borders. So between this anterior border and posterior border on the lateral aspect means exactly here. That what is that surface is called superficial, means lateral surface. So this lateral surface, what are the structures are present over the lateral surface? So first, as you know, the skin, and beneath that superficial fascia. So in the superficial fascia, there must be a cutaneous nerve. Here, great auricular nerve is there, where the great auricular nerve is branch of the cervical plexus, supplying the skin over the angle of mandible. Means here, the structures present in the skin are supplied by the great auricular nerve. Then deep to the superficial fascia, the deep fascia. So what is the deep fascia? This is a false capsule. And beneath that, we can immediately identify this lateral surface of the parotid gland. So the lateral surface is limited in front by the anterior border, posteriorly by this posterior border. Now what is there? Here is. If you take a section of the parotid gland, see this is an anterior limitation, this is posterior limitation, and this is lateral aspect, and this is medial aspect. See here, this is the medial border. Why the medial border appears? See, the posterior border of the ramus of the mandible, it grooves the medial surface of the parotid gland. So by this grooving, what happened? The medial surface is divided into anteromedial, posteromedial by means of intervention of this medial border. So how many borders of the parotid gland now? Anterior border, posterior border, and this is medial border. Among these three borders, how many surfaces are there? This is lateral or superficial surface, and this is medial surface. But the medial surface is divided by means of a medial border in turn into anteromedial, then posteromedial surface. So these are the three surfaces of the parotid gland. Now, what are the structures are related? See, relations which are very, very important. Now coming to the superficial, otherwise called lateral surface. So first, what is the covering? Skin. Then superficial fascia. Then great auricular nerve present in this superficial fascia. Then after that, deep fascia. Then in here, we can identify the superficial group of the lymph nodes. They are the superficial parotid lymph nodes. Then superior relations. Before going to that, first you see medial relations, which are very, very important. So laterally skin, superficial fascia, deep fascia. Then medial relations, just you see the picture. The anteromedial surface, it is grooved by means of the posterior border of the ramus of the mandible. And this ramus of mandible laterally is related to the masseter muscle. Medially, it is receiving the insertion of the medial pterygoid muscle. So these are the three structures which are grooving this anteromedial surface. Then posteromedial surface related to what are the structures? First, you see most posteriorly, the posteromedial surface is related to the bone. This is the mastoid process. Mastoid process. Identify mastoid process. And this mastoid process, external surface, is related to the sternocleidomastoid. whereas internal surface is grooved, where it gives origin to the posterior belly of the digastric muscle. So here you can see this is the bone. What is this? Mastoid process. And laterally it is related to the sternocleidomastoid. And medially, what is this muscle? Posterior belly of digastric. And further posterior medially, what are the structure? See this styloid process. Already I have told styloid process. So this styloid process, identify styloid process. So this styloid process gives origin to the three muscles. The three muscles including stylohyoid, stylopharyngeus, and styloglossus. And the tip of the styloid process is related to the two ligaments, which are stylohyoid ligament and stylomandibular ligament. So styloid process with the three muscles and two ligaments, which all these structures are collectively known as styloid apparatus. It's a 2-mark question. You have to tell what is the styloid apparatus. So styloid process, it's important muscular attachments and ligament attachments. So altogether 5 structures, and important vessels are related. See, just in front and medial to this styloid process, we can see internal carotid artery, and behind that internal jugular vein. These are the very important structures, as they are going to supply the internal carotid artery supply in the cranial cavity. So these are the structures are related to the styloid process medially. So posteromedial structures are very, very important. Sternocleidomastoid and posterior belly of digastric, which are attached to the mastoid process. The styloid process receives the 3 muscles and 2 ligaments. And important vessels are internal carotid artery and internal jugular vein. So these are posteromedial structures related to the parotid gland. Sometimes this medial border, it is closely related to the pharyngeal wall here. So in such case, this medial border is also known as pharyngeal border. So these are these various important relations of the parotid gland. Now, this parotid gland extends beyond this margins, means borders, as a process. So usually the parotid gland presents 4 processes, which are known as glenoid process, facial process, pterygoid process, pre and post styloid process. We will see what is this glenoid. Please keep silence. So what is this glenoid process? See, superior margin, as I told, this is superior margin, concave margin, and the concave margin is extending just behind this temporomandibular joint to the mastoid process, like this, right? So here what happened? See, this is an articulation between the head of the mandible with that of mandibular fossa of the temporal bone, right? So this mandibular fossa is not entirely articular. See, this is mandibular fossa. The anterior part is only articular. Posterior part is non-articular. So what is this posterior part of the mandibular fossa? It is represented by the tympanic plate. So how this mandibular fossa? Anteriorly articular part, posteriorly non-articular part. So what is the meaning of non-articular and why it is non-articular? Here you see the part of the parotid gland intervenes between this anterior and posterior parts. So the mandibular fossa is divided into anterior articular, posterior non-articular, and in between we can see the intervention of the, means the projection of the parotid gland. So that is nothing but glenoid process. It is a process of the parotid gland. So by this glenoid process, the articular part of the temporomandibular joint, means simply the temporomandibular joint is separated from the tympanic plate. Then facial process. Just you see, this is anterior border of the parotid gland, and from this anterior margin, the part, a triangular or conical projection extends along this parotid duct, which is known as facial process. Sometimes this facial process is detached from the main gland, and it has a own duct and drains into the parotid duct. So what is this structure is known as accessory parotid gland. Means, what is this? I am repeating. Accessory parotid gland is a detached part of the facial process, and it has a own duct, because it is not directly drained by parotid duct. It has its own duct, and that in turn drains into the parotid duct. So this is nothing but accessory parotid gland. Then pterygoid process. What is this pterygoid process? See here. In front, the gland is like this. So it rests on this, like this. Are you able to see? My two fingers representing this is lateral surface and this is medial surface. In between the posterior border is wedging, right? So what happened? The part of the parotid gland, it extends into the, means it intervenes between the, here medial pterygoid muscle is there. So between medial pterygoid and the ramus of mandible, a part of the parotid gland extends inwards. So that is nothing but a process which is known as pterygoid process of the parotid gland. Now, what are the pre and post styloid process? Here you see in this diagram, this is the styloid process. Sometimes you see this styloid process is grooving this gland. Which part of the gland? Posteromedial surface. So by this grooving, part of the gland extends in front of the styloid process and part of the gland passes behind the styloid process. So a projection in front of styloid process is pre-styloid process of the parotid gland. Behind that is the post-styloid process. See, the pre-styloid process is related to the internal carotid artery, whereas post-styloid process is related to the internal jugular vein. I am repeating again. See, this is styloid process. So this styloid process make grooving this posteromedial surface. So what happened? By this grooving, part of parotid extends in front of styloid process and part of gland passes behind the styloid process. So these are the nothing but pre and post styloid process of the parotid gland. Now, these are the structures. It is very important. So structures within the parotid gland. The three important structures present within the gland. You have to draw the diagram. It's maybe a single diagram or three different diagrams, but you have to show all these three structures. What are the relation between these three structures also very, very important. Now coming to the first structure is facial nerve. See, I'm repeating. Structures within the parotid gland means inside, within the substance of the gland, how they are arranged from superficial to deep. The first superficial structure is the facial nerve. Then 1 centimeter deep to the facial nerve is the retromandibular vein. Still deep to the retromandibular vein, there is an external carotid artery. So in this way, from superficial to deep, the three important structures are present within the substance of the parotid gland. Now coming to the facial nerve. See, the facial nerve means it's a seventh cranial nerve. It's a cranial nerve. So it takes origin within the cranium. Then it leaves the cranial cavity by means of an important foramen, which is known as stylomastoid foramen. So stylomastoid foramen means here, this is mastoid process. This is styloid process. In between, there is a foramen. There is a foramen. So mastoid process and styloid process. In between, there is a stylomastoid foramen. So through this foramen, it emerges the skull. Means just after passing through this foramen, it appears outside the skull. So now the extracranial course of the facial nerve we can identify. So this extracranial course, see, it is a mastoid process. Just 2 centimeters deep to this mastoid process, we can identify this facial nerve. From here, it pierces the gland. So which part of the gland? The posteromedial surface of the gland. Here you see posteromedial surface, then appears within the gland. So on reaching the gland, immediately it divides into two trunks. One is temporofacial. The second one is, this is cervicofacial. See this diagram. So here, this is the trunk of the facial nerve, extracranial part of the facial nerve, emerging the posteromedial surface, then enters into the interior of the gland. So here, it is immediately divides into temporofacial trunk and cervicofacial trunk. And this temporofacial trunk further divides into temporal branch, and this is the zygomatic branch. Then cervicofacial divides into buccal branch. This is marginal mandibular branch, and this is cervical branch. So altogether, how many branches? 5 branches. And just they resemble the, you see, 5 branches emerging from the anterior border. You see, this upper border, temporal branch, zygomatic branch. From the anterior border, this buccal branch, marginal mandibular branch. From lower end, this is cervical branch. So all these 5 branches emerging out. So within the gland, how they will take origin? Like a goose foot. And this appearance of the division of the nerve is also known as pes anserinus, because it resembles the goose foot. That's why it is also known as pes anserinus. So how it is divided? Facial nerve, once it appears in the interior of the gland, immediately divides into 2 trunks. One is temporofacial and the second one is the cervicofacial. The temporofacial again divides into 2 branches. Temporal branch, it is crossing the temple region. The zygomatic branch, it is crossing the zygomatic arch. The buccal branch, it extends onto the face here transversely. The marginal mandibular, crossing the posterior border of the mandible. And some extent it extends into the neck, and again it extends onto the face. Then last branch, that is a cervical branch, appears in the neck. So what is this facial nerve here? What it gives? See, the facial nerve is a nerve of the second branchial arch, and it is a motor nerve. So it provides muscular branches to the muscles derived from the second branchial arch, which includes, already in the scalp I told, temporoparietalis and occipitofrontalis. Then on the face, the facial muscles, the muscles of the facial expression, all are supplied by this facial nerve only. And here the cervical branch, it extends down here and it supplies the platysma. And here, what is the emergence of this facial nerve? Stylomastoid foramen. So once it passes through this stylomastoid foramen, immediately it provides an important 3 branches. The posterior auricular branch, it is going behind the ear, where it supplies the occipital belly of the occipitofrontalis. And now to stylohyoid, and the third branch is auricular branch. So these 3 branches, first it gives off. After that, it pierces the parotid gland and enters the interior of the parotid, where it divides into terminal branches. So how many terminal branches? 5 branches. So you should know all these 5 branches where they are supplying. Already face is completed. So temporal branch, this is zygomatic branch, this is buccal branch, and this buccal branch is again divided into upper buccal and lower buccal in relation to the parotid duct. Upper buccal means above the parotid duct, lower buccal is below the parotid duct. And this is marginal mandibular branch, and this is cervical branch. So by this division of facial nerve, actually the parotid gland is divided into superficial part and deep part. So this division of the facial nerve knowledge is important for surgeons while they are dissecting the parotid gland during removal of the tumors. So to avoid the injury of this nerve, so where the facial nerve emerging means superficial to that, that is a superficial lobe or superficial structure, and deep to that is a deep structure. Now coming to the retromandibular vein, the other important structure which is present within the substance of the parotid gland. So what is this retromandibular vein? The retromandibular vein is formed by the superficial, temporal and maxillary vein, which are both unites to form what is this? Retromandibular vein. Retro means behind. So it is behind which part of the mandible? Exactly behind this head of the mandible. So retromandibularly, what happens? Superficial, temporal and maxillary vein, both are unites to form the retromandibular vein. So we can see this formation of the retromandibular vein. and it terminates, means it divides into anterior division, posterior division. The anterior division receives the facial vein where it forms the common facial vein, and this posterior division receives posterior auricular vein where it forms the external jugular vein. So this is a retromandibular vein. We can see 1 centimeter deep to the facial nerve. So this is the second important structure present within the gland. Now coming to the third structure, that is external carotid artery. After giving all important structures in the neck region, the external carotid artery enters the gland. So it is also an important structure within the gland. So once it enters into the gland, and it is the deepest structure present within the gland. So once it enters, what happens immediately in the parotid gland, it divides into two terminal branches. One is superficial temporal and the second one is maxillary artery. So we can see this external carotid artery and its division. These are the two terminal branches. So these are structures present within the gland. Now coming to these structures, how they are emerging from the gland. This knowledge also important. See, the structures emerging from the upper end or base of the parotid gland. This includes these vessels. You see, this is a superficial temporal vein which is entering the gland at this upper end, and the superficial temporal artery leaving the gland. Then one more nerve just in front of the ear, which is the auriculotemporal nerve. So these are the structures we can identify at the upper end. These three structures are emerging. So while you are writing, you have to mention what are the structures emerging from the gland, means from the upper end of the gland. So you should include these three structures: superficial temporal vein, artery, and auriculotemporal nerve. Then what are the structures emerging from the lower end? That is nothing but apex of the gland. So at the apex, you can see very clearly an important nerve. This is cervical branch of the facial nerve. It leaves the gland. Then we can see the division. Here already I told retromandibular vein. So retromandibular vein, here it forming external jugular. So exactly at the lower end or apex of the gland, we can see formation of the external jugular. So how the external jugular vein is formed? The posterior auricular vein draining from the posterior aspect of the skull, just behind the ear. Then posterior division of the retromandibular vein. Again you revise. So posterior auricular vein, external jugular, posterior division of retromandibular vein. Both are joints to form the external jugular vein. So these are structures we can identify here. Then structures emerging from the gland on posteromedial surface. So on posteromedial surface means behind. So external carotid artery and facial nerve. So they are just facial nerve piercing the posteromedial surface. Then anteromedial surface. What are the structures are emerging? Maxillary artery leaving the gland enters into the infratemporal region, whereas maxillary vein leaves the infratemporal region and extends into the gland. So maxillary vessels we can see on the anteromedial surface. Then these structures are important. You see along the anterior border of the parotid gland, how these structures are emerging. So first it includes this zygomatic branch. Then, this is zygomatic branch. Then this is transverse facial artery. The transverse facial artery is a branch of the superficial temporal artery. Then below that we can see upper buccal branch, then parotid duct. This is lower buccal branch, then marginal mandibular nerve. So these are the structures are emerging from the anterior border of the parotid gland. Then see, the knowledge of parotid duct is important. So what is this parotid duct? Parotid duct is 5 centimeters long. 5 centimeters in long length and 3 mm just width. Then it extends from the anterior border of the parotid gland. Then it just transversely extends onto a muscle. So it is related to the masseter muscle. And reaching the anterior border of the masseter, it suddenly changes direction. First it is forward, then suddenly changes direction medially, like this. Abrupt bending we can find out. Then piercing here a buccal pad of fat. So here the duct is present between the two muscles. Laterally masseter, medially buccinator. After that, it extends, means just beneath the mucosa of the oral cavity. Then finally, it opens on a papilla. So first I told the parotid duct opens into the vestibule. What is vestibule? See, actually the oral cavity is divided into vestibule and oral cavity proper. So vestibule means the alveolar arches, the space between the alveoli and teeth, gums, then covered by lips, the space in between. So that is known as vestibule. So that vestibule receives this parotid duct exactly opposite the crown of the second upper molar tooth. So this is the terminal part, means where it drains into the vestibule. It is not directly opens into the oral cavity proper. Now coming to the blood supply of the parotid gland. See, the arteries are derived from the external carotid artery, then its two terminal branches, superficial temporal and maxillary artery, small branches which are going to supply this parotid gland, and the veins are drains into retromandibular vein. Lymphatics. The parotid is drained by two sets of lymph nodes, superficial and deep, and from these superficial and deep lymph nodes, efferents are drained into these deep cervical lymph nodes, which are jugulodigastric lymph nodes. Coming to the nerve supply. The knowledge of nerve supply is very important. The gland means the secretomotor fibers must become. So the secretomotor fibers are derived from parasympathetic nerve. So via auriculotemporal nerve. Now you see in this diagram, we can identify what is the source of the preganglionic secretomotor fibers. Preganglionic secretomotor fibers are derived from inferior salivary nucleus here. From here, the fibers extend through the glossopharyngeal nerve and through a branch, what is the tympanic branch. So this tympanic branch forming the tympanic plexus, and from the tympanic plexus, the branch extends. So what is that? Lesser petrosal nerve, and this lesser petrosal nerve terminates in the otic ganglion. So from the otic ganglion, the postganglionic fibers passing through the auriculotemporal nerve. So this auriculotemporal nerve supplying the parotid gland. And then sympathetics are derived from the plexus around the vessels. This is external carotid artery. So plexus around, and these plexus are derived from the superior cervical ganglion. This is the superior cervical ganglion. So from here, postganglionic fibers are going and forming plexus around this external carotid artery. And this external carotid artery is supplying the gland. So whatever branches are supplying the gland, around these branches, there are sympathetic fibers. Then sensory nerve. So sensory means skin over this parotid region, supplied by the great auricular nerve and also the auriculotemporal nerve. And this is a histological structure or microscopic structure. See, I have placed all these three salivary glands, major salivary glands. Comparatively, the parotid gland is a serous gland. Mostly 99% is serous gland. Submandibular is predominantly serous, and sublingual is predominantly mucus gland. So these both are mixed glands. Then what is this gland? So this is a exocrine gland, and already it is completed in histology. So what is this? Compound tubulo-alveolar type of gland. So the secretory units are purely serous in nature. You can see, just you see the picture, at least one serous acini. So each serous acini is made up of a pyramidal shaped cells with a rounded nucleus. So from the acini, a small duct arises. So what is that? Intercalated duct. The intercalated duct opens into the interlobular ducts. So these interlobular ducts are collectively forming the main parotid duct, which is also known as Stenson's duct. Coming to some important clinical aspects of the parotid gland. Sometimes there is a complete absence of these salivary glands. So what happened? Absence of salivary glands means there is no saliva. So the dryness of the mouth. It leads to dental caries, burning sensation, oral infection. These are the complications. So what is the condition is called aplasia or atresia. Then Parotid abscess. So parotid abscess is gained by, see what is parotid abscess? It may be retrograde direction. See, the parotid duct opens into the vestibule. So retrograde direction, any infection, bacterial infection, extends from the vestibule or oral cavity to the parotid gland. Then here, this is very, very important. While draining the parotid abscess, we have to give a small horizontal incision instead of vertical incision. Why? Already you know the facial nerve is dividing horizontally like this, in this way. So if you give a vertical incision, there may be chance of damage to this. So always the draining of parotid abscess is by giving only a small incision with the horizontal incision in order to avoid the injury of the facial nerve. Then mumps, as you know, mumps is a viral infection of the parotid salivary gland. So you know the fever, pain when swallowing, and the severe pain is there. So you can understand why, in case of swelling or what is the accumulation of the parotid, it is very painful because it is limited by the fascia, deep fascia. The deep fascia is made up of the collagen tissue, so it won't allow the expansion, further expansion. So information is going on means it provides some means that what is that, there is a very painful because it is inflamed within the limited borders, and that limitation is made by the deep connective tissue that is made by the collagen fibers, right? So it is very painful, but there is a vaccine, as you know, MMR vaccine is there, but in case of very rare cases, sterility can result. This is a mumps, and this is adenocarcinoma. This is the, what is adenoma or adenocarcinoma? Tumor arising from the glandular tissue. And first I told, while eating something, there is a sweating just in front of the ear and below the ear, sweating. So what is this gustatory sweating? Actually, this is a very interesting complication. As I told, what is the nerve supply, secretomotor nerve supply to the parotid gland? Auriculotemporal nerve. So any penetrating wound of the parotid, it may damage the auriculotemporal nerve as well as the great auricular nerve. So auriculotemporal is secretomotor. So by the stimulation of secretomotor, salivation is there. Whereas by the stimulation of this great auricular, sweating is there. So what is the communication in between here? During means healing of the parotid gland, what happened? The auriculotemporal nerve goes outwards and may communicates with the great auricular nerve. So because of this communication, means communication between the auriculotemporal nerve and great auricular nerve. While you are eating something, instead of salivation, there is a sweating over the skin just in front of the ear. So this condition is called as auriculotemporal syndrome, gustatory sweating or Fraisse syndrome. Is very rare complication even after the surgical removal of the parotid tumors. Thank you. So for parotid, it's an essay question. You have to write what is the parotid region, exactly where it is located, for which you have to know surface markings. After that, you should write what are the presenting parts, then what is the important process right from the parotid gland, then you have to tell parotid duct how it drains, then blood supply, nerve supply, then some clinical aspects related to the parotid gland. This is about the parotid gland. Thank you. కుమార్ గారు స్టాప్ చేసేయమంటారా?
లీవ్ మీటింగ్
మధ్యలో నాకు ఈరోజు డిస్టర్బెన్స్ వస్తుంది.
ఏంటి
స్టూడెంట్స్ అంటే ఏదో మాట్లాడుతున్నారు.
అయిపోయింది ఇది కావాలి అన్ని బాగానే ఉంటుంది. ఎవరు ఒకరు
మేబీ క్వశ్చన్ అడగడానికి
మీటింగ్ పెట్టాను ఫర్ ఆల్ ఉన్నదా అంతే అందరికి